Been nearly 24 hours since the fate of accused double murderer the man accused of double murder, Kyler Yust, went into the hands of the jury. He's accused of killing Kara Kopetsky and Jessica Runyons nearly 10 years apart. Their remains were found near each other back in 2017 in the woods near Belton. 41 Action News has followed this case since it began back in 2007 with the disappearance of Kara Kopetsky. Now, nearly 14 years later, families of both Kopetsky and Runyons await the jury's decision. We're closely following any and all developments inside the courtroom. Tonight we have team coverage starting with 41 Action News anchor Caitlin Canute live at the Cass County Courthouse. Caitlin, what happened so far today?
Well, today, Dia, besides deliberations, the jury has requested evidence throughout the day. Most recently, they just asked for a map, a blank map of the area. Keep in mind, these jurors came from the St. Louis area, so some of the names of cities and locations that have been thrown out, they're not necessarily familiar with. So that's the most recent request that the jury made. Just to catch you up to speed, in case you're just joining us, last night, the defense filed a motion to acquit, and they claim the state has failed to prove that their client committed these charges. That motion was denied. That means, again, that the deliberations do continue inside. As for what goes into their deliberations, we talked to an attorney who's not affiliated with the case about just how complex this case really is.
In this case, you're talking about a span of decades. And I know the state put on, I think, at least 3 dozen or more than 3 dozen witnesses in this case. So there's a lot for that jury to talk about. There's a lot for the jury to go through. There's a lot for the jury to deliberate on.
And one thing the jury is considering, Yust's testimony yesterday. Remember, he took the stand in his own defense. So what we heard from Yust yesterday, he was very calm. He was very measured in his responses. He failed to take the bait, so to speak, when upon cross-examination, the state tried to question him about some of the things that he'd said. Again, this was the defense's attempt to humanize the man who is accused of committing 2 murders.
Speaking somewhat softly, at first sounding a little hoarse, Kyler Yust told the jury about his upbringing. The defense shared a picture of a younger, clean-cut looking Yust with his grandparents, making a point to note this picture appeared in their church directory. Yust also talked about his aunt who got him interested in music, taking him under her wing till she died, an event he described as traumatic. Yust also talked fondly about both young women he's accused of killing, first describing Kara Kopetsky.
Really outspoken. Really pretty, great sense of humor, fun to hang out with, just a great person.
Then Jessica Runyons.
Jessica she was just so cool. She knew how to cook. She seemed like she knew how to do everything. She knew, like, as soon as you, like, hung out with her, she was just, like, the kind of person that you just trust.
But upon cross-examination, the state accused Yust of being obsessed with both girls and prone to violence.
She was done with you, right?
No.
And you were angry because Kara wasn't shy about telling you that she was moving on with different guys, right?
Yes.
And that enraged you, quite frankly.
Didn't make me happy.
You had put your hands on her before. She had bruises on her arms from where you would grab her, right?
No.
You had given her a fat lip at one point and strangled her so that when she went to Amy Clark's house, Amy Clark saw those injuries, didn't she?
Amy Clark was lying.
And that was the basis of Yust's defense on the stand, that the witnesses who claimed he confessed or abused his girlfriends were lying, or his confessions caught on tape were either meant to impress an ex-girlfriend or hurt his mother.
I was acting.
Just like you're acting right now.
So will Yust's version of events yesterday be enough to sway jurors? Will his calm demeanor on the stand be enough to counter the state's arguments that he had this explosive temper and just snapped? Or will jurors see it as rehearsed, as him having an answer for everything? Will they buy his version of events that it was actually Jessup Carter, his half-brother, who committed these crimes? That remains to be seen. Here with more on that angle is my colleague Andy Alcock. Andy?
Yes, Caitlin, the fact Jessup Carter isn't here to defend himself against Yust's accusations is because Carter hung himself in jail following an arson charge against him. At the time, he was accused of burning down his Uncle Paul's house. Now, of course, for that reason, we don't know what Carter's response might have been to Yust's accusations blaming him for the murders of Kara Kopetsky and Jessica Runyons. However, 41 Action News reporter Andres Gutierrez exclusively caught up with Carter 3.5 years ago following a court appearance. At that time, Carter talked about the case building against his half-brother, Kyler Yust.
We just want Cara and Jessica, we want those families to have some justice served. And if he's found to be guilty, you know, we want them to be we just want them to feel better at night that he's finally been away, you know, and I'm not okay and my family's not okay with anything that he did.
And at this trial, we learned it was Jessup Carter who called police, which led to Yust's arrest for torching Jessica Runyon's car, and ultimately now the two murder charges against him. Caitlin?
Thank you, Andy. And just to remind our viewers as to what happens next. So again, we're still awaiting a verdict from the jury, but when they reach one, if they do find him guilty of first-degree murder, that is an automatic life sentence, so everyone goes home. If they find him guilty of a lesser charge, the jury would then have to deliberate again. It would be the sentencing phase. So they would bring back some of the families involved. They would give those victim impact statements, and the jury would decide on a sentence, how long that Yust could spend behind bars. If they find him not guilty, they go home. If it's a hung jury, they could have to do this whole process all over again. That's certainly a possibility. But again, we are waiting on the jury to reach that verdict. And Dia, as soon as anything happens, of course, we will bring that to you live on air and online. Dia, back to you.